A very warm welcome to everyone to the Vidyashilp EdCast. I'm Neha Khurana and I'm an assistant professor at the School of Liberal Arts and Design Studies here at Vidyashilp University. From here on in the EdCast, we will have one discipline in focus for you every fortnight. And today we have Law in Focus. We have with us Professor Roopa Madhav, who is the professor and program chair at the School of Legal Studies and Governance here at Vidyashilp University. A very warm welcome to you, Roopa. She was amongst the first batch of students at the BA LLB program at NLS Bangalore. She did her LLM at New York University and her PhD at SOAS London. She also went on to be a co-founder at the Alternative Law Forum in Bangalore. I would like to understand a little bit more about your trajectory and how you got here, Roopa.
Thank you, Neha. So I'll try and be brief because this is 3 decades of work within the law that I'm trying to capture. So my initial years was practicing law for nearly 10 years, and that practice in law led up to the formation of the Alternative Law Forum in Bangalore, which was a collective of lawyers that got together to do public interest law. Having worked there for nearly 2 years, I then decided to get a master's. And my brief stint at NYU opened up doors to academia and research. And I've been passionate about research ever since. And having looked at research in academia as something that goes hand in hand, teaching has been something that I've been doing for the last 15 years now.
Thank you. So as I understand and I know from you, your research interests have been in labor law and human rights, environmental law, and regulatory governance. So how did you come to choose those areas?
Right. So while those 4 become more specific areas that I've drilled down into, it's to say that there's a wide range of areas that one continues to work with, because it is with law a range of interdisciplinary subjects that one is also working with. Labor has been something that I've been passionate about, along with environmental law, and then regulatory governance over the last 10 years. One has focused on water regulation for many years now, but gradually looking at the broader aspects of looking at regulatory design itself and looking at institutions and how institutions are shaped through law.
Right. Given your vast experience of having been in various societies and contexts and cultures, I'd like to ask you what you think of the role of the lawyer in India today. Has it been changing? Is it transforming? What is it that we demand of a lawyer today?
That's a very good question, Neha, because the role of the lawyer remains somewhat constant given that all of our traditional challenges remain. But there are also emerging areas like we see which needs a more specialized approach. So both of these continue to coexist while we have the need for the traditional BA LLB course, which teaches students about society and its interface with the law, builds interdisciplinary skills, and then provides them domain expertise. We also have within Vidyashilp a new and emerging area called the BMS LLB, which is the Business Management Studies specialization, along with LLB honors. So this specialized course is trying to reach out to digital businesses and how lawyers need specific training in understanding what the digital business needs are.
Right. So given this context of these emerging areas, what kind of skills and proficiencies do you think these 2 programs that you mentioned, the BA LLB and the BMS LLB, build in our students or seek to build in the students who take these up?
Right. And it is a complex mapping that we have done in building those 2 programs. So the programs require that students build several core competencies, which is of communication, writing, and reading. Also applying logic and the ability to argue cases in a confident manner and with enough understanding of the domain itself. So these basic competencies are required, but we are also building other expertises such as being a good mediator, a good negotiator, also looking at problem solving and thinking through a a problem set with multiple approaches from different disciplines. So we're trying to build a holistic education here at Vidyashilp while keeping the pillar of core law domain expertise as its center.
Right. It's interesting that you bring up these core proficiencies and skills like writing, communicating, and negotiating. Because in the previous podcast, we spoke about the core curriculum, where we spoke about how the core curriculum actually builds a proficiency in these three areas, one being thinking and expression, another being socio-cultural awareness, and so on. So I'm glad that you bring it up. So what else would you say is unique about the law program at Vidyashilp University?
So there are multiple other aspects that we are building into the program. One is the community engagement, which is also part of the VU core, which exposes students to the realities. We also have a lot of exposure programs. We take students to the mediation center. We, through the internships, allow them to get real life experience with lawyers, practicing lawyers. We're also building a legal services clinic which will reach out to communities in the areas around the areas we stay and work. So these are core elements that we're thinking about while we're thinking about the law. With with BMS, we're looking at links with industry and building those elements within the program itself. Additionally, I might wish to add here that we have centers which will do specialized research and work, and students will also learn research skills by associating with these research centers.
Right. So, are there any prerequisite skills that an ideal student or a student aspiring to be in one of these law programs should have?
While we don't expect students to come with all the skill sets, the students do come in with the ability to read and write, because at the core of law is a written text, and therefore we expect students to have that ability to both read and write and communicate well. But at VU we shape students too. So while they come in, we don't expect them to come in completely formed. They come in raw, but we shape them through both the teaching modules, but also through exposure.
Sure. Interdisciplinary seems to be the big buzzword nowadays. So would you call the law program at Vidyashilp interdisciplinary, and what is it that interdisciplinarity contributes to it? How is it helpful?
Right. So the format of the BA LLB honors course is a traditional format which is handed down by the Bar Council of India. So while we've tweaked a little of that, we have other schools here at Vidyashilp, which is the School of Data Sciences, the School of Business, and the School of Design, and School of Liberal Arts. All of these have multiple other disciplines that the students are exposed to. Students have the choice of doing electives, which means that they can opt for courses in all of these other schools. So depending on their interests and their ability to sharpen their skill sets, they can also opt for some of these courses. So building interdisciplinarity also means that they learn beyond just the core program. There's a lot of peer learning that also happens, because they're also exposed to multiple exhibitions and workshops and research seminars and talks where their mind is expanded through different disciplines too. So they're constantly learning from different disciplines, but there's also the ability to choose an elective and to sharpen your own understanding within a particular discipline. How is this useful as a lawyer? Law is such a broad area of work, and it's also something that cross-cuts many disciplines, that students can bring in many of these skill sets, whether it's psychology into looking at criminal law, or economics into looking at regulatory aspects, looking at AI and technology, all of these elements which the students can build on going forward.
Right. So you mentioned some of the hands-on workshops and training programs. You briefly mentioned them. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what other kinds of hands-on training that students receive as part of this program, which prepares them for the workplace that awaits them?
So briefly to talk about three things. In recent years, they've had an exposure to mediation clinics. They've also contributed to legal services clinic. They do internships, which also build their skill sets. And there have been simulation exercises that the faculty have experimented with, something called the crime scene investigation, which builds skill sets too. So all of these are different ways in which the students are on ground, but also learning from simulation exercises on campus.
Yeah. If I may add to it, actually, so through the core program also, I suppose the stuff that you spoke about, through the core program too, you seem to be building some interdisciplinarity into each and every program.
Yes. True. The core is the foundation which students build on, and the core is the first 2 years which allow the students to then sharpen their skills, whether it's communication skills, writing skills, thinking, problem solving, all of these. Thinking about knowledge itself and epistemology as a course in itself. All of these are elements that build up into the interdisciplinarity. Each of the core also creates an interest in students in thinking about the third and fourth years where they get to do all the electives and seminar courses. So it tweaks interest, and which they can pursue later in the 5-year program.
Right. I would like to ask if you see certain challenges in front of students aspiring to be lawyers today. Are there certain challenges that they are up against? What should they be prepared for? What can they expect?
The challenges are still the traditional challenges of court systems and how lawyering itself works. Lawyering is not a paying profession in the initial years. So students do struggle in the initial years, the gestation periods as we call it, till they specialize and are known within the field. So we will, through our placement programs, make sure that students overcome this one challenge. But there are multiple challenges as you go into the field, as you grow as either a practicing lawyer or as an offshoot. You take law as your profession, but you become either a researcher, a teacher, or a negotiator, or many other branches of law that you segue into. All of those would require a mapping of challenges within those. I'm not sure we have enough time to actually discuss all of it, but leaving it at that the core one of practicing lawyers will require some handholding of students through the placement processes.
Right, thank you. Just as a last question or a comment, I'd like to hear from you. Is there a message that you would like to give out to aspiring lawyers today? Something that students should look out for, something that students can aspire to through the course of their programs?
I suppose to say that law is a very exciting profession to be part of. It touches many domains, it touches many lives, and come into the profession to make a difference. It's very rewarding. It takes off slowly, but finally it's a very rewarding profession to be a part of.
Right. So on that wonderful note, we wrap up EdCast number 2. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Roopa Madhav. Thank you. Signing off.